Welcome back to Sugo for the second race of the opening round of the 2024 Japan Cup. Last year it was run as part of the GT World Challenge Asia. This year it's a standalone series, and we kicked off with a hugely exciting opening race. Plenty of action. Possibility of rain on the way. Beautiful sunshine yesterday, but the clouds are gathering over this magnificent hilly wood-lined circuit. And it really, well, let's take a look. Yes, the humidity was only 60% for the first race this morning. It's now 72% and climbing. As you can see from the daisies blowing in the wind is picking up as well. Quite cool as well, just 21 degrees. That'll make it much, much more comfortable for the drivers through this 1 hour race. And the celebrations and the dancing is taking place down on the grid of cars just in front of the pole-sitting K-Tunes Racing Ferrari and the ANR Lamborghini on the right-hand side of the image. So lots of tradition being brought to the front of the grid. The music playing, the dancers just beginning their dance, and the drivers, of course, trying to keep an eye on them, but also focusing on the 1 hour race that lies ahead. Quite fittingly for the Japan Cup, a full Japanese taste. GT racing growing and growing in this part of Asia. In fact, all of Asia, but great to be here. And it's a brilliant circuit. And I tell you what, we'll have one of the race winners from race 1, Ukyo Sasahara, to show us around a lap of the circuit in the Bingo Racing Corvette. Take a look.
I'm Ukyo Sasahara, racing for Bingo Racing car number 9 Corvette C7 GT3R. So we're here for the Fanatic GT World Challenge Japan Cup, and yeah, here's a lap of my lap in Sugo. So we coming to turn 1 and 2. It's obviously it's uphill in the braking zone, and there's quite twisty on the rights. And turn 3 is a downhill, quite speedy and makes it easier to understeer. Turn 4 is starting another uphill, and exiting is a really struggle. Here's the chicane, and one of the good photo spots for the jumping the GT3 car. And now it's called a high point and rainbow corner. It's a double right. It's exiting here is makes a huge difference for the back straight. Yes, we are now coming for the back straight, and one of the famous spots is called the Umanose corner. One of the famous spots in the Sugo. And now the next one is called SP1 and SP2. It's a really high speed and challenging corner, one of the exciting part of in Sugo. We are coming now to last corner. It's actually downhill in the entry, but mid to exit is changing to the uphill, so the elevation is massive. So this is a lap of the Sports Run Sugo, and hopefully you guys enjoy the lap.
Well, what a brilliant lap on a fantastic circuit. Fully 70 metres drop from the start-finish straight, where the teams are all assembled now, to the lowest point on the circuit, which is the entrance to the final corner. The dancing continuing down at the front of the grid, adding fabulous local colour here at Sugo. And for the drivers, it's fantastic to have this flavour, but it's a warning, or is it a celebration? We will find out, but certainly we've got this 1 hour race coming ahead. Great to have the local flavour, but the drivers all focus on what's going to be coming up soon. They'll be starting with 2 formation laps, and it's just great to watch the scene as it sets down there. The wind is really starting to pick up. You can see the flags up and down the grid really blowing around in the blustery grids. But I tell you what, the first race this morning was an absolute cracker, racing in all the classes. Let's take a look back at the highlights of race 1. Clean start, the Ferrari on pole position, doing everything it needed to do. The Bingo Racing Corvette with Shinji Takai looked to the outside, decided the better of it. The Lamborghini thought about moving up into 3rd position, then decided to go for 4th, backed out. Tadao Uematsu swooping into 3rd in his McLaren, but the problem came here, turn 4. The Lamborghini not really close enough, goes up the inside, 2 wheels on the grass, loses grip, bam, slams into the tail of the Comet Racing Ferrari. That was really bad news indeed for Yorikatsu Sujiko. There it was, spun in the background. All the GT4 runners came through, but that was a shuffle too, because the GT4 class leader got shuffled to the back in the sort out, and the race was all about the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari that led coming into the pits, but after the pit stops, in no time at all, Ukyo Sasahara got onto the tail of Shinichi Takagi, onto the tail of the Ferrari, and it was nip and tuck, and then got very, very robust indeed, very clean, but they were just side by side and giving no ground whatsoever. And then, was there a touch here? Yes, there was a little bit of a kiss, we'll call it, around the tight infield section of the circuit. They pressed on, and eventually the Ferrari did get shovel wide on the exit of turn 4, right in front of a couple of the cars in GT4. And that was a battle that would rage on, and in fact come unstuck at the very same point of the circuit. Here we go, turn 5, and unfortunately Seitan Nanaka a little bit wide on the way and clumped the curbs on the inside and got shoveled wide, and that allowed Wakayama Toyota's Toshiyuki Ochai to come on through. And then this was a battle for 4th place. The Lexus driver Morio Nito actually got completely unsighted, and Yuki Inamoto swept around the outside, right on the tail of a couple of the GT4 runners, but he got his Lamborghini ahead and then pulled clear, and eventually would rise and rise and rise and get to 3rd place on the final lap. But victory, there was no doubt about it. Ukyo Sasahara building on a really good attack, and he took victory by 8 seconds of Bingo Racing. First blood to Corvette, bringing it home for that first victory. Delight all round, Shinji Takai there to give him a man hug, shake him up and down, and then they headed off to the podium. So that was the highlights, but let's head straight down the grid, because Amy is down on the grid with the first of the interviews with car 98.
さあ、スポーツランドスゴで開催されているジャパンカップのレース2でございます。山脇選手、レース1に引き続きポールからのスタートになりますけれども、レース1ちょっと悔しかったですね。もうバトル炸裂だったんですけれども、いまいちっていうところで及ばなかったんですが、
タイヤの多分使い方、使い方がそのセットの使い方の問題もあって、ああいうちょっと惜しいレースになってしまったと思うんですけど、レース1見直して、レース2はもう一回仕切り直しということで勝てればいいなと思ってます。
1番手で高木選手戻ってきますかね。
戻ってくると思います。はい、大丈夫です。
それで熱い戦い期待してますんで、はい、頑張ってください。
はい、ありがとうございます。頑張ります。
So race 1 didn't go as expected with the tires. The management of the tires wasn't quite there that they could get P1, but this time they will try to fix that, and hopefully they land in the middle of the podium. That's what he's saying, and he has a lot of faith in Takagi-san coming back P1 so that he can cruise on his stint.
Thank you very much, Amy. That was Daisuke Yamawaki, who really was very impressive in the first half of this morning's race. And if they're on top of how to get the most out of their Pirelli Racing rubber, then I think they're very much going to be a factor. But look out for this car in the race, the 563. It's the only Lamborghini from ANR with Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. And Yuki Namoto will be doing the first stint in that. He was the fastest driver in the opening race, set the fastest lap, but that served a drive-through penalty and still swept up the order to 3rd place overall. One other factor needs to be considered. The first 3 finishers in race 1 get a sort of penalty for their success. We're looking at the Bingo Racing Corvette that won the first race. That means it has to spend an extra 15 seconds at a standstill when it comes to its pit stop. But let's go down to the number 96 Lexus K-Tunes Racing. Kazunori Tsunago, the boss of the team, is with Amy.
末永選手、レース1もすごいバトルが炸裂しましたけれども、一歩表彰台に及ばなかったっていうところなんですが、今回ですね、前の3台がですね、全車ペナルティーストップがあります。サクセスペナルティー、どうそれをご覧になってますか？
どうなんでしょうね。でも新田さんがやってくれると思いますよ。で、その新田さんのいいペースの中でしっかり僕が引いでそこでベストを尽くせればいいなと思っています。
戦略としては新田さんが引っ張る感じですか？
ですね。しっかり最後までかなり長く乗ってもらおうかなと思うので、はい。
末永選手のね、ツッキーバトルも期待してますんで頑張ってください。
そうですね。K チューンズ今ポールいますんで、しっかりそこに我々もついていこうと思ってますんで、頑張ります。はい、お願いします。
頑張ってください。So the fact that the 3 cars in front have a success penalty, I asked him, how do you see this? And he's like, that is a great condition. And Nita, he will try his best. He will go as long as he can, obviously. And then after that, he wants to just, because the K-Tune car is on pole position, just go after them and get the best results like they can do.
Thank you, Amy. And worth pointing out that Morio Nita, we just heard from him, he'll be starting the K-Tunes Racing Lexus. The sister car is the K-Tunes Ferrari And the driver who's starting that, Shinichi Takagi, normally shares the Lexus with him in the Super GT GT300 category. So they're sort of friends and today enemies. Now, one car that went really, really well in the first race was the best of the GT3 AM runners, and it's Tadeo Uematsu in the number 55 McLaren on the left-hand side of your screen. He's the only driver without a teammate, so he has to do the entirety of the race, still has to come in and serve the pit stop. Comet Racing's Ferrari was one that had a little bit of a clash. But let's go down to GT4 because Amy Izawa's nipped down to speak to the crew of car number 39. Seita Nanaka will be starting that.
So Haridharma, you're starting GT4 pole position again. It didn't go quite as you wanted at race 1. What happened?
Okay, in race 1 after start, turn 4 get stuck because some GT3 spin. So I must out of the line. So back to number 6 in GT4 class. And then after change, I think we have a little bit problem for the setup because when the tire is more hot, the car is more unstable to drive. Okay, hopefully this race, everything okay.
Let's hope for that.
Yes.
And yes, and good luck in the race.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
そうですね、レース1でポールスタートだったのに何があったのっていう話なんですけれども、GT3 でスピンがあったじゃないですか。そこにスタックしてしまって抜けるのに時間がかかって、で一番後ろについてしまったっていう状況です。で、セットアップもちょっと少々変えましたので、今回はいけるんじゃないかとおっしゃってました。
Thank you, Amy. Looks like she's about to rush off to get an umbrella. Rain could be on the way. But interesting point there from Haridamo Manopo. He got shoveled wide when the Comet Racing Ferrari was given a bit of a punt on the opening lap and had to do the chasing. And likewise, he was talking about how when Seita Nanaka took over after the pit stop, the first few laps, he looked incredibly skittish. Now we know why. Their car seemed to be set up more for when the tyres are a bit warm. But let's hear the trumpets down on the grid. And stirring blasting of the trumpet there, applause rings out and the grid is being cleared. So if you miss race 1, it's the same format, but the drivers who started race 1 will be going second in race 2. And we've got the 8 GT3 runners at the front and 6 GT4 class cars filling the last 3 rows of the grid. And if it's as good as race 1, we'll have battling all the way through the field. It certainly was a race of remarkable tussles. Car 39 is the one that will be started by Seita Nonaka. That's the Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia Supra. Top car in GT4. And just worth pointing out, by the way, the top 3 cars on the grid, the Ferrari, the Lamborghini and the Corvette, were covered by just 0.04 of a second in qualifying. They will all have success penalties. They have a longer pit stop when they come in. That could help those behind, but I think the pace of the first 3 was just so strong that they may still be ahead after those pit stops are made, even with those penalties. Just had a quick sighting of one of the other cars in GT4. It was the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche, and they've raced all over the world, but now setting their sights on GT racing, and they went very well indeed in race 1. Let's see what they can do in this second 1-hour race. But looking down on the grid, we have a Ferrari and a Lamborghini on the front row. We've got Corvette, and alongside a Lexus on row 2. The next row, a McLaren, another Ferrari, and then an Aston Martin and a Nissan. So lots of manufacturer variety. This is one of our onboard cars. This is the number, it's a Ferrari 296 GT3. It's the one on the right-hand side of your screen on the 3rd row. That's Comet Racing. And that car will be started by Yusuke Yamasaki, who of course went second in the opening race. K-Tunes Racing, they're running the Ferrari that's on pole position. They're running Morio Nitta's Lexus, which is on the outside of the 2nd row. And then in GT4, they're running a Toyota Supra. So lots of variety. This is the view through the windscreen of the one Lamborghini ANR, Team ANR, with Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. And the driver on board is Yuki Nomoto, who's proved himself very, very handy indeed in the last few seasons when racing in Europe. In fact, he was the Italian GT champion 4 years ago, but lots of experience with Lamborghinis, and certainly he showed fantastic pace in the first race. So the green flag is waved, and we're going to have 2 formation laps. So a good chance for all the drivers to get a feel. There's the D Station Racing Aston Martin. But let's catch up with Amy one more time, and she's in the Comet Racing garage with Yorikatsu Tsujiko. So let's hear what he says, and hopefully they'll have no clashes.
辻子選手、レース1ちょっと不運にね、見舞われて順位下げちゃったっていうところなんですけれども、まあ名誉挽回じゃないですけれども、レース2何を期待しますか？
山崎選手が、いいところで帰ってきてもらえれば、レースラップは悪くなかったので、何号車かな、上松さんになんとかひっついていって、隙あらばちょっとワンチャン狙いで上に行ければなという感じです。はい。
So he really is praying that his partner is going to push as hard as he can, following the car in front of him and come back safely with the car, and then they do have a chance to actually go further up than race 1, obviously, because there was it was not the best race for them. で、昨シーズンのですね、アマクラスのチャンピオンとしてジャパンカップに、再び参戦ということで、なんかこう気持ちとしてはどんな気持ちですか？
車が変わってで、実はこのスゴが初めてだったんですけど、すごく乗りやすくて、今のところ何もマイナスなところがなくて、逆にただまだそこまでいけてないのかなという感じなので、ちょっとこの先がどうなるのかっていうので、でも非常に楽しみな感じですね。はい。
期待してますんで頑張ってください。
はい、ありがとうございます。
So they are here with another car. It changed from last season. They were champions of the 2023 AM class Japan Cup, and so it's a new feeling. But so far the car feels good, and he's having fun, obviously. So we will see how it works out. That's what he said.
Thank you very much. And worth pointing out, as the cars come round to the start, their second formation lap, that is a car, the Comet Racing Ferrari, just coming over the ridge there, that will be pushing for GT3 AM honours. Let's take a look at the grid. The front row is the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari. Shinichi Takagi will start it in this race, and Yuki Nomoto will be second on the grid in the Lamborghini. He flew in the first race. Ukyo Sasahara, already a winner this weekend with the win this morning, the Bingo Racing car. He'll start third alongside the Lexus of Boria Nitta. Then Tadeo Uematsu, who's the leading GT3 AM runner, he goes solo in the Team Machina McLaren alongside Comet Racing's Yusuke Yamasaki. Row number 4, the last row for the GT3 runners, it's Kenji Hama in the D-Station Racing Aston Martin and Atsushi Tanaka in the Run-Up Sports Nissan. Then come the GT4 runners, and they're led by Seita Nonaka, Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia, that's a Supra, alongside a Porsche Cayman, Daisuke Fujiwara. Then Takeshi Suehiro, his car went very well for Wagayama Toyota in race 1, and Masaki Kano for Wise Racing BMW, they won GT4 in race 1. Then Masahiko Kageyama, the veteran racer, will be in the K-Tunes Racing Toyota, and alongside the GT4 AM solo runner in this, the only driver in that class, Takashi Toyoda, and he'll be sharing his SRO Motorsport Mercedes with Kiwami Katayama. So down the hill they go from turn 8 through a little kink at turn 9. They're 2/3 of the way round the lap, approaching the lowest point on the circuit, but not there yet. There's the Run-Up Sports Toyota, black with the red stripes. This is a car that also competes in the Super GT series. Then comes the lead car in GT4 in the background, the black Toyota Supra GT4 that is being driven by Seita Nonaka. There it is, just coming through with the yellow and black Porsche Cayman of Sunrise Boulevard. So all eyes on the screens in the pits. 1 hour of racing with a mandatory pit stop in a 10-minute window in the middle of the race. But right now it's all eyes focused on how the field is going to go. It should be in 2x2 formation like race 1. They get to this final corner. It's a long final corner, turn 13, with a really steep climb. And all the GT3 runners need to get side by side. So Moria Nitta needs to get that Lexus a little further forward. Then comes the sextet of GT4 runners. Their battle isn't with the GT3s. In fact, they'll feature in the GT3 battles when they get lapped, but there was a really, really good scrapping for the junior class in race 1. So the Toyota Supra peels off, that's the safety car, and as the GT3 runners come over the brow, they're waiting for the lights on the gantry to go. On pole position, it's Shinichi Takagi in the Ferrari alongside Yuki Nomoto, and the power is down. Who's going to get the inside line into turn 1? That is the one that really, really is going to count. And again, a very good start from Tadeo Uematsu. He gains a position, goes from 5th to 4th in his McLaren, but trying to go around the outside. I think he's done enough to do it. Yuki Nomoto gets ahead as they drop out of turn 2 into turn 3, and the Bingo Racing Corvette, trying to muscle its way past the Ferrari as well, has got the job done into turn 4. This is the corner where there was trouble on the opening lap of race 1. This time around, much better. That was a fantastic move from Yuki Inamoto. I really fancied his chances. Getting alongside into turn 1 gave him the opportunity to be bold and get past into turn 2. Neat and tidy. There's the D-Station Racing Aston Martin holding station, as it were, in 7th place. Then in GT4, it looks though it's very much in grid order. Certainly Seita Nonaka is leading the way in that class. Down they go towards turn 10. We're riding on board with car number 9. That's the Bingo Racing Corvette that has a little look at the race leading Lamborghini. Backs out into turn 10. Discretion, the better part of Valor there. The track continues to drop. We're wonderful sweepers. That's turn 11 out of the way. Now turn 12, down the slope they go, also known as SP1 and 2, but this is the biggest corner on the circuit. Turn 13, now at the lowest point. Immediately the track starts to buck up the hill, and also trying to get a really clean exit from this long corner to rise up the slope. There's plenty of punch from the Bingo Racing Corvette, getting closer and closer. Now it's in the slipstream with the Lamborghini, but once they come past the pits, the straight really isn't that long at all, and the Moto should. Well, he leads at the end of lap 1 by a quarter of a second, but he turns into turn 1 ahead. That is fine. How hard do these drivers desire to push on the opening few laps? They had 2 formation laps to get a bit of heat into their tyres, but now at full racing speed, they're right on the ragged edge, pushing as hard as they dare. Order at the end of the opening lap. Nomoto in his Lamborghini, Sasahara in his Bingo Corvette, and in behind the order looks so it's been shuffling. Yes, the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche has dropped a position because car 38 has gained a spot. That's Takeshi Suehiro in that white, green and black Toyota going through turns 5 and 6, the chicane. But what he can see in his Supra is the fact that the class leader is starting to pull clear. Seita Nonaka in another Toyota. That's the one from Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia. But GT4, look what a fantastic scrap. And the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche has got the K-Tunes Racing Toyota right on its tail, leaving just one other car in the field at the back of the pack, and that's the SRO Motorsports Mercedes just out of shot. The race lead is fantastic scrap already. Brilliant start to take the lead by Yuki Nomoto, but Ukyo Sasahara showed how robust he was to get past into second place to demote the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari that started on pole position. The gap this time, I'd say, almost identical. It was 0.249 of a second at the end of lap 1. Oh, a huge gain. 9,000ths of a second from Nomoto in the lead still. Just edging clear, but really we're talking tiny fractions. Turn 1, turn 2. Now the track starts to drop down the hill. This is no place for passing. If you're on the outside of turn 2, as we saw on the opening lap, you might be able to dive down the inside into turn 3. No such luck. We're now at turn 4, getting close, but of course the car in front's braked already, now starting to pull clear. How many of much of these curves do you desire, do you want to use at turns 5 and 6? They certainly can throw the cars out of line, but a brilliant line through turn 7, top of the back section, then through 8 and down the hill. And traditionally, the Bingo Racing Corvette seems to have a load of punch out of the corners, then the more aerodynamic Lamborghini pulls clear. Let's take another look at the start of the race. Not a brilliant start from pole position from Shinichi Takagi, so that gave an opportunity while he's being challenged up the inside semi-seriously by the Bingo Racing Corvette. It gave a chance for Yuki Nomoto in that green Lamborghini to put himself on the outside line. He's not quite level on turn in, halfway between turn 1 and 2. He gets his nose just in front and he keeps his foot in because he knows if he's on the left-hand side of the track when they get to turn 3, the job is done. Let's observe this all from on board the number 9 Bingo Racing Corvette. Looks at this point as though he might have a go up the inside, but of course the Ferrari had to turn in. Oh, such side-by-side action, possibly even a little bit of rubbing as Yuki Nomoto braved it out around the outside. And between turn 2 and turn 3, the Lamborghini hit the front, and this was the point, unfortunately, for Takagi. He ran a tiny bit wide, and boof, the Bingo Racing Corvette came through into second place. Great scrap at the front of the field. 4 laps on the board, flying by already, and it's down to just 0.213 of a second between first and second. So the Bingo Racing car through turn 5 and 6. The chicane gets a little bit closer. Can he have a good line again through this corner, turn 7? Yes, he has. Now it's about, this is the absolute key corner, turn 8. It feeds the cars onto the downhill back straight and close enough to get a slipstream here, but it's going to be a very bold move if he thinks it's at this stage in the race it's wise through the kink at turn 9 and into turn 10 to make a move. No, he doesn't think it is this time around. Plotting and planning, and all along just gradually edging clear of the pole starting Ferrari of Shinichi Takagi. Fastest lap already, very quick indeed, 1 minute 21.641 seconds for the Bingo Racing second place Corvette. I think the fastest lap in race 1 was about half a second faster, but this is still early in the stint for the drivers to see what they can do. And certainly the Bingo Racing Corvette, being very close, actually could be the slightly faster car. Yes, you can feel the slipstream being gained over the start line. It's down to just a tenth of a second between first and second. But all Yuki Nomoto is offering is the outside line. In a handful of laps, have a little think about this one. They need to gain about 20-30 seconds, so then they will catch the SRO Motorsports Mercedes as they turn through turns 5 and 6. It's just at the end of the back straight, turning into turn 10, so actually quite a few laps. That's all on its own, but the big concern for first and second is when they come across the gaggles of GT4 runners, and that will be in some while yet. Oh, a mistake at turn 8. This could be very costly for Yuki Nomoto, and the Lamborghini ran a little bit wide. Car went a bit sideways as he adjusted, and a much better line taken by the Corvette in behind, but yet not enough of a gain. Maybe actually slightly had to lift as well, as the Lamborghini got a bit twitchy at the top of that back straight, so couldn't gain an advantage. Talking of advantages though, we heard before the race from Daisuke Yamawaki saying it was about tyre management. Maybe it's going better because the fastest lap of the race is by his teammate Shinichi Takagi in third place in the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari. He's starting to catch the lead too. Of course the lead duo are holding each other up as they tussle, only by microseconds, but all along the Ferrari, maybe just a more cautious start, is now starting to really use its rubber all the better and improves that margin. So top 3 cars now covered by 2.4 seconds. The pole-sitting Ferrari is just out of the background of this shot, or it would be if we were looking the other way. So the Lamborghini of Yuki Nomoto continues to lead. Interestingly, around the 3 sectors of the circuit, the car that's fastest is fastest in sector 1. That's the Ferrari, now in the background of the shot. And the other 2 cars challenging for the leader faster in the other 2 sections of the circuit. Right, this is the battle for 4th place. We had a good start from Tadej Uematsu in that Team Machina McLaren. He got ahead on the rush to the first corner of Mario Nitta's Lexus, but the Lexus is hunting him down the back straight they go. They're about 8 seconds off the tail of the 3rd place Ferrari. A great scrap of their own, and they're suitably clear, another 7 seconds clear of the Comet Racing Ferrari of Yusuke Yamasaki. And the driver of the McLaren in the front of this scrap is the one who is doing the entire race solo, so when it comes to the pit stops, he won't get out of the car. He took victory in the GT3 AM class. Well, that was a far, far better run through the final corner from Mario Nitta. Looks like he's going to sweep around the outside, but the McLaren is very, very sleek. Tends to gain a bit more performance when they get to the end of the straight, but was the punch of the Lexus V8 enough? Absolutely it was. Totally different line adopted, and it worked for him. But for the driver of the McLaren, Tadej Uematsu is thinking, I'm trying to get class victory here, as he had in race 1. Traffic now up ahead. And that is the SRO Motorsport Mercedes, the GT4 car, hopefully looking at its thing, but it's going to be a 3-way battle. As I said, the last 2 laps, 3 consecutive fastest laps for the Ferrari that's now on the tail. Remember, it was 2.5 seconds down, and is much, much less. He's taken a second out of the lead scrap in the last 3 laps. But as they went past the GT4 back marker, the SRO Motorsport Mercedes, no advantage to the race leader, Nomoto. No advantage either for Ukyo Sasahara in 2nd place in the Bingo Racing Corvette. This scrap could go all the way to the pit stops. Is now the time to mention about success penalties for the first race? This could be an advantage for the Lamborghini because it has to have an extra 5 seconds at a pit stop, but the Corvette that's giving chase has to be an extra 15 seconds at a standstill in its mandatory pit stop because it took victory in the first race. And the Ferrari that's catching them little by little will also have an extra time at a standstill, 10 seconds, because they finished 2nd in the first race. So this is very, very much music to the ears of Akira Mizutani, who'll be taking over the Lamborghini from Nomoto. Maybe from the lead, maybe not, but the fact they gain 10 seconds over the closest rival and 5 seconds over the Ferrari that's just gradually catching the pair of them means it could give them an advantage. Then it's up to Mizutani to carry it through to the end of this 1-hour race. GT4, it's still the number 39 Toyota Supra leading in the hands of Seito Nanaka. Car 38, there it is, white with the green splodges, that's Takeshi Suehiro. Second in class. What's the gap between the Supras? 4.5 seconds. Who's going faster at the moment? Well, it's Nanaka, so he's actually stretching the advantage. There it is, GT4 class leader. They just weren't happy with their tyre setup for the first race, their chassis setup. It just didn't get the best out of the tyres, so they had sort of a 3-hour gap in which to work on that. Seito Nanaka, who was the driver of the pairing, he looked sort of more out of sorts than the start driver. Well, he's going very well indeed. How close would you like your lead battle? That visual representation is close, and the stopwatch says it's 0.118 of a second between the Moto leading in the 563 Lamborghini from ANR and the Bingo Racing Corvette, pushing all the time, but not finding the key to the lock to try and get into the lead. So just a tenth of a second down for Ukyo Sasahara, but he's already had a taste of victory, winning the opening race with his teammate Shinji Takai. This time around, Sasahara does the first part of this 1-hour race. Much tidier line from Yuki Inamoto in the race-leading Lamborghini this time around. A couple of laps ago, we had the view through the windscreen of that number 9 Corvette and saw a very, very twitchy exit in turn 8, and then compromised the lead Lamborghini all the way down the back straight. This time, much smoother. Yeah, definitely Shinichi Takagi is getting closer and closer. There is Shinji Takai watching the screens, ready for his turn in the Corvette that is pushing hard in second place. Oh, a really, really good run out of turn 13, much closer this time. Can't get any closer without getting on board the lead Lamborghini. Proper slipstream. That should manifest itself surely for a dive up the inside. But you know what? The Moto's not really very interested in braking just yet. Braking late into turn 1. Wow, gets that Lamborghini around. This time, well, in fact, the lead has blossomed. It's gone out by 1/1000th of a second. 0.119 is all it is between the first car, the Lamborghini, and the second, which is the Corvette, and catching the pair, another 10th gained by, or 2/10ths gained on that lap by Shinichi Takagi. We could have a 3-car battle for the lead any second now. I reckon in the next lap or so. Hold on, where's the traffic up ahead of them? No, not much to be caught. Car 97 will be the next one they catch. The K-Choose Racing GT4 Supra, but I don't think they'll catch that on the back straight. No, it should get down to turn 10 ahead of them. Maybe they'll catch it coming into the final corner, into turn 13. This is a good scrap in GT3 and Corvette, I beg your pardon, Comet Racing in 6th place. That's the Ferrari number 7. That's Yusuke Yamasaki. D-Station Racing and Kenji Hama, very close indeed in the Aston Martin, but the last few laps have been much better for Atsushi Tanaka in the Run-Up Motorsports Nissan. There it is, getting closer and closer to the Aston Martin, just as closer and closer, but actually this time around maybe not quite as close and close. This is the lead battle, it's a GT4 Supra. Boom, they go, the race leader Namoto goes past, and no problem at all for Bingo Racing's Yuki Sasahara to dive past as well. And actually we have 2 K-Tunes Racing cars together, and the Toyota needs to move out of the way because K-Tunes Ferrari in 3rd place was the one that was then slightly obstructed through turns 1 and 2. No blame attached to the GT4 Supra, you do have to turn in at some point. Such a great circuit. Sportsland Sugo, opened in 1975, been much loved ever since. Been wanting to come here for decades. Just looks brilliant. So much vertical drop, 70 metres. 7-0 that is. That's a huge drop from the start finish straight to the lowest point, which is the entry to the final corner. Then that absolutely seems vertiginous when you get there. The run out of turn 13 uphill. This is turn 10, and yet again Bingo Racing and its driver Ukyo Sasahara in that lurid liveried Corvette has no answers to Yuki Inamoto, who continues to lead in that Lamborghini. And all along, just trying to gain a 10th here, a 10th there. I don't think we'll catch them quite before the pit stops is Shinichi Takagi, but having seen the pace that his teammate Daisuke Yamawaki, I beg my pardon, made in the first race, we could be in for a real flying finish. But all those cars have success penalties, they'll have longer pit stops, but you know what, they are well clear of Morio Nitta. If he's more than 15 seconds back, there's no chance that they will be jumped in the pit stops, and I think we can certainly say that's the case. Still waiting for Nitta come across the line in 4th place. I hear the roar of the Lexus, and he's 15.7 seconds down. There we are, we can deal in fractions of a second if it stays like this up to the pit stops. What can Ukyo Sasahara do? The first 3 actually closed up a little bit. They're down to 1.6 seconds from 1st through to 3rd. Certainly the traffic favoured Shinichi Takagi in the 3rd place Ferrari. Lamborghini, Corvette, and in the background Ferrari. All got past the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche in the background. That's running, where is it now? It's running 4th in GT4, kept out of their way. Very, very few points on this fantastic circuit where the drivers can really relax. This is the corners known as SP1 and 2, or in my nomenclature, turns 11 and 12, and then the dive down to the lowest point of the circuit, which is just there. The cars are cupped by the track, if you will, and then it sort of slightly banked and leads them up the hill, which is a really, really steep hill. 1st, 2nd and 3rd going over the brow. Lamborghini, Corvette and Ferrari. Gap between 1st and 2nd, a 1/3 of a second, and a few fractions gained by the Ferrari in 3rd place. That's how close it is. 1.4 seconds on the nose. They're about to catch the Wise Racing BMW. That's Masaki Kano, who was all smiles on the podium, and at the moment he should still be smiling because he's heading for another podium, but it was GT4 victory in the 1st race, running 3rd in class at the moment, so the smile will be maybe a little bit of a grin more than anything else at the moment. This is the view from the car in 2nd place, the Bingo Racing Corvette, looking at Yuki Nomoto, just biding its time, and then accelerating out of turn 8, trying to pick off Masaki Kano. There he does, straight past the GT4 BMW. Likewise, the Bingo Racing Corvette goes through, and for the sake of Shinichi Takagi, he, unfortunately, has not been able to get past the BMW before turn 10. That has cost him some of those 1/10 of a second he'd gained. The BMW had to turn in, gets out of the way, but sometimes traffic works for you, sometimes it works against. And I'll tell you what, the first 2 cars, that lead battle between Nomoto in the Lamborghini and Sasahara in the Chevrolet Corvette, are both tucked in behind the car that's 2nd in GT4, which is overtaking the car that's last in GT4. 3 abreast up the hill they go, but they get past Takeshi Suehiro in the Wakayama Toyota. Next car they're going to catch is just as they turn into turn 1, he's just exiting turn 2, is the car that's leading GT4, and that is Seita Nonaka in the Toyota Gazoo Racing Toyota Supra. Just up ahead, there it is, it's just going through into turn 4. Now into turn 4 goes the race-leading Lamborghini. Now into turn 4, up the little slope to turn 5 goes the Bingo Racing Corvette over the curbs, trying not to hit them too hard. They're really quite strident curbs, really quite banked, and can fire the car around. And through all that, having lost a little bit of ground because of traffic last time around, the Ferrari is showing its pace, because now the first 3 cars are covered by just under a second. I think it's come down even more since the start of the lap, but it's still the Lamborghini that leads the race. Still the Bingo Corvette in 2nd, and now it's still in 3rd place, but certainly Shinichi Takagi, the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari that started, don't forget, from pole position, is right on their tails. Seita Nonaka is going to leave the door open so the front runners can go up the inside. They do it, but that's a slightly compromised line, but I thought this might have been an advantage for the Ferrari, but in fact it got separated rather than propelled onto their tail. So there was our GT4 class leader, and he was doing a great job keeping out of the way. Sizable lead in GT4. And there was a change for the lead, finally getting the toe been looking for forever, and Bingo Racing Ukyo Sasahara waited patiently. He'd had many attempts, but this time he was on the start-finish line. He was a 1/10 of a second down, but somehow bold enough to stick the nose of that Corvette up the inside. Pit window is going to open very soon indeed, but he's done what he wanted to do. Now he may be able to pull away, because certainly he had the facility to really monster Yuki Nomoto in the Lamborghini. And now look how quickly, once that passing manoeuvre was made, that the Ferrari of Shinichi Takagi has closed onto his tail. Look how quickly in the background, the shot, you can see how quickly they dropped the GT4 class leader. Different classes of cars, different performance of cars, but did well to keep out of the way. But the cork is out of the bottle now. Not only leading, but pulling clear. Ukyo Sasahara is going to see how many more seconds he can gain, or fractions of a second, before he comes in probably just before the pit window closes, to hand over to teammate Shinji Takai. They took victory in race 1. Can they do the same in race 2? However, that victory in race 1 means they have to have an extra 15 seconds at a standstill at pit stop. The car that's in second place will have an extra 5 seconds because it was third in the first race. And in between them, sorry, at the back of that grouping, the Ferrari has an extra 10 seconds. They will all be delayed, but they've got Mario Nitta not quite out of the picture, but that Lexus pairing are going to have to really pull out the cork if they can. They may be ahead just after the pit stops by a tiny fraction of a second. Be very, very close indeed with the 4th place Lexus from K-Tunes Racing. But once they get back out for the second half of the race, you'd expect the cars that are currently running 1st, 2nd and 3rd to pull away, because it's all about the balance across a driver pairing, and they've got very, very quick combinations in those first 3 cars. And as is generally the case in the Japan Cup and GT World Challenge Asia, when you've got a Pro-Am pairing, as most of these cars have, certainly the 4 of the GT3 runners, your Pro starts the second race, so then they'll hand over to the driver who is the Am, who's therefore a little bit slower, but it's a question of how the drivers of these cars stack up against the other Ams. Talking of GT3 Am, looking at the car that's leading it, the driver that's leading it, Tadeu Uematsu, who does the whole race on his own. He doesn't bother with the help of a co-driver, so 2 one-hour races in a day, that's quite tough, but he's up for the action. Talking of action, this battle may be for 6th place, well not maybe, it is for 6th place overall, but the Comet Racing Ferrari, Yusuke Yamasaki, continues to resist the D-Station Racing Aston Martin Vantage, the dark coloured car with the bright green wing mirrors. 2nd, 3rd and 4th, that's the D-Station Racing Aston Martin. Behind them, the Run-Up Sports Nissan. No change is being offered, and no change of position either. 6th, 7th and 8th, that's Yamasaki, Hammer and Tanaka in the background. That's Atsushi Tanaka in the black and red Nissan. Ooh, little off-track moment there, trying to shorten the line around the circuit for the D-Station Racing Vantage, but it didn't gain any advantage, so down the slope it continues, still in 7th place in that battle for 6th, 7th and 8th. The pit window is open just at the right time, just about half a minute to go to open. It stays open for 10 minutes, and Comet Racing dives out of 6th place overall. That will be Yamasaki coming in to hand over to Yorikatsu Sujiko. It's amazing how many times you get to the last lap before a lot of drivers come in and you get changed position. And maybe it was a lack of concentration there from Kenji Hammer, but just as the Ferrari peeled off ahead of him to dive into the pits, maybe he didn't quite get the power down as he wanted up the hill, as he noticed it. Ferrari changing its line, but certainly advantage taken by Atsushi Tanaka, so he gains not 1 but 2 positions. 1 because the Comet Racing Ferrari came in to make a pit stop, and the other because he jumped Kenji Hammer in that great looking Aston Martin from D-Station Racing. Also in the pits along with the Comet Racing Ferrari, that's the middle of those cars. In the background of the shot is the SRO Motorsport Mercedes from GT4. In the foreground, the K-Tunes Racing Supra that was running in 5th position out of the 6 cars in GT4. Pit window open for 10 minutes between the point where you have 35 minutes left in the race to the point where there are just 25 minutes. If you pit after that, it's too late, my friend, and you won't get your pit stop done, therefore you'll be disqualified. The other way you can do it is come in within the pit window and stay in the pits. This is measured from the entrance to the pit lane to the line where you exit the pit lane. For GT3, if it's anything under 90 seconds, then you have to arrive back to pit lane and be stationary for the number of seconds by which you undercut. So the fact it's a very slow pit exit here adds at least 30 seconds to your race. No, in fact, probably a whole lot more. So the Bingo Racing Corvette has absolutely rocketed clear. Just saw it going over the crest as it pulls away. It was 3.4 seconds clear of this second place battle last time around. Now 4.2 seconds. So Ukiya Sasahara, he had to wait, and finally he took the lead of the race. And that leaves Nomoto in the Lamborghini to fight against Shinichi Takagi in that number 98 K-Tunes Racing Ferrari, the car that qualified on pole for race 1 and for race 2, but just didn't make a good start and really has paid the price for that. still has the fastest lap of the race to his name. Takagi in that third place Ferrari, but what's happening right now, some much quicker laps are being put in terms of its regular pace by Ukyo Sasahara. He finally took the lead from the green Lamborghini. There's the car in second place, the 563 Lamborghini. There is the chasing Ferrari, but all along, right up until the pit window is about to close in another 6 3/4 minutes. It looks like the Bingo Racing Corvette is edging clear. No, not edging clear, racing clear. Good news for all of these runners. There aren't any back markers around them. A couple of other pit callers who's in at the moment. It's car number 82. That's the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche. All the others, and this is generally the case, as I said, if you've got a Pro-Am pairing, your Pro starts this race, so they tend to be the ones you want in the car for the largest sector of the race you can, and that's why they're staying out longer. But enough is enough for Shinichi Takagi, and certainly in this morning's race, it looks like his teammate Daisuke Yamawaki just had a bit more of a handle on this K-Tunes Racing Ferrari. So let's see what they can do. But remember, the Ferrari has extra time in its pit stop, an extra 10 seconds. There's always plenty of time in the pit stop anyhow. For the GT3 runners, it has to be a minimum of 90 seconds. So by dint of finishing second in the opening race, their pit stop must be 100 seconds or more, and that's from pit in to pit out. So plenty of time for the driver change to Daisuke Yamawaki. We heard from him before the start of the race. But what is absolutely clear is that Bingo Racing, Ukyo Sasahara knows what he has to do. He's got 5 more minutes to do it. He has to push, 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 and see how much of an advantage he can build up, because he's having 15 seconds extra at a standstill when it comes to the pit stop. He may well have come in from the lead and go back out and only just be in the lead again, or not, because of course the best place of the other cars, in 4th place overall, Morio Nitta, when he comes in to hand over the Lexus 96 from K-Tunes Racing to Kazunori Suenaga, he doesn't have success penalty, so he could gain 15 seconds on the race-leading Bingo Racing Corvette. Not could, he will, but it's a question of how good his in-lap is and how fast the out-lap for Kazunori Suenaga is going to be. Halfway through the pit window, GT4 is still being led by Seita Nonaka. And there is the pit stop completed, the 100-second pit stop, hopefully nothing less from the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari crew. And this is Daisuke Yamawaki going up, and as you'll observe when you get to the end of the pit lane, there's a hard right, followed by another hard right between turns 1 and 2. So we're having, just waiting to see who's made their pit stops, and we've still got half the field. Most of the front runners have not served their pit stops, most notably that green Lamborghini is just catching the Comet Racing Ferrari, which has done a pit stop. So who's going to dive in? We've got another 4 minutes, well, slightly less than that, to the end of the pit stop. Now, Comet Racing keeping out of the way. That was very well done by Yorikatsu Sujiko. He's just trying to get the heat into his fresh set of Pirelli tyres after the driver change. Whereas Yuki Nomoto has got plenty of heat in his tyres. He's been racing hard since he took the lead on the opening lap of the race, going out of turn 2. Then he had that wonderful battle with the Bingo Racing Corvette. Getting quite twitchy as he goes into the bowl of turn 13 before the track veers its way up the hill, but he's not going to the pits as yet. He's going to do as many laps as he can before he has to dive in to make a pit stop. Just over 3 minutes remain until the door be metaphorically slammed shut at pit in. And of the front 4 runners, only 3 have stayed out. The one who blinked and came in first was that number 98 K-Tunes Racing Ferrari. And out of the lead of GT4 to make its pit stop is Seita Nonaka, handing over to the only non-Japanese driver in this race. If you're racing in GT3, you must be a Japanese national, but it's open to all Asian drivers in GT4. And Haridama Minopo in having his pit stop. And behind that, K-Tunes Racing Lexus is now in the pits. That came in, it was originally 4th place, but this is the highest ranked of all the cars that doesn't have a success penalty for its pit stop, so it should gain, maybe pick off one of the 3 cars in front, maybe even coming out just ahead of Bingo Racing Corvette. But I think the in-lap from Ukyo Sasahara is going to be absolutely key. Is it going to be this time around? No, with He's going to cross the start-finish line with 2 minutes remaining, so he's going to have time to get around this lap and get into the pit entry. Once you cross the white line that demarcates the moment you're in the pits, that's fine, then you can make your pit stop. If you don't get round in time, that's going to backfire. So the Lamborghini coming in from second place overall, leaving only the Bingo Racing Corvette to go round, stretch the first stint as long as it possibly can. Now, where will this Lexus go out? Kazunori Suenaga's just taken it over from Morio Nitta. Goes around the pit exit, starts to accelerate a bit, but it's very, very tight indeed as he goes around the inside of turns 1 and 2. Here we have the ANR Lamborghini, Akira Mizutani being strapped in by Yuki Nomoto. No need to hurry too much. This one has an extra 5 seconds at a standstill. That could put it back in the lead because the Bingo Racing Corvette, by dint of winning race 1, will have an extra 10 seconds on top of the 5 seconds this Lamborghini has to serve. So they could be cool, calm and collected. It'll be 25 minutes this race remaining, but right now, if this Corvette has any particular problems, the only problem right now would be just forgetting to come into the pits. But you can see coming out of turn 13, Yukio Sasahara comes up the slope and spots the white line and locks up, almost kisses the grass. He tries to get it down to the pit speed limit, snaking that Corvette round the curves. Bingo Racing, I think they're much towards the end of the Japan Cup pit lane, comes to a halt. So keep it cool, keep it calm, and don't forget you've got those extra 15 seconds. That's a little unfortunate. He shed one of those by perhaps going round another car, but sort of went a little bit past his garage. On these small moments, a race can turn, but after all the laps of being bottled up behind Yuki Nomoto's Lamborghini, those are some great series of consecutive laps there from the Bingo Corvette, driven by Yukio Sasahara. He's out, Shinji Takai is in. Let's see what he can do. Just remember, he's got the longest success penalty, 15 seconds extra at a standstill. And the question for me is which car is going to be leading when he comes towards the end of the pit lane, turns right and right again, and joins the track on the drop from turn 2 and turn 3. So while he's at a standstill in that number 9 Corvette, the next car in line, I'm looking to see where the 563 Lamborghini is. That's only now going out of turn 8 down the back straight. That gained 10 seconds in the pit stops. Here it is, 563 down through the kink at 9, kicking up a bit of tyre debris on the track. This is Akira Mizutani into turn 10. You can see the grip isn't there yet, certainly not as confident under braking. Now it looks like he's got the job done because the Lamborghini is only going through turn 11 and 12, but it's a lot. The pit lane isn't long per se, but the exit is very, very slow indeed. But I think the in lap and the few laps before was surely enough from Yukio Sasahara. The car I need to spot is where is the number 96 Lexus, because that is, well, it's nowhere near is the answer to that. Even with that slower pit stop, the Lexus I'm talking about is only in turn 12 on this 13 corner circuit, and already the Bingo Racing Corvette back out onto the circuit. However, where is the number 563 Lamborghini? Well, the answer to that only now turning through turn 2 as the Bingo Racing Corvette, well, there's a visual there, looks a little bit slow as it comes out of turn 6. Wait, in the background of the shot, any moment now we should see the green Lamborghini. There it is, just turning into turn 4. That's a good visual. So I think probably talking about 6 or 7 seconds, the margin that the race-leading Bingo Corvette will have. And then it's a question of how quickly the second driver in the Corvette, Shinji Takai, can get up to full racing speed, because the Lamborghini came in the lap before, so its tyres are warmer, the driver more attuned. Well, let's go down to hear from the driver who set the pace in stint 1, Yukio Sasahara, with Amy.
笹原選手、もう耐えてここぞという隙をつきましたけど、気持ちよかったですか？
いや、気持ちよかったですね。なかなか速いところで僕らのコルベットと相手のランボルギーニが違ったので、結構頭を使う必要があったんですけど、なんとかちょうどこう GT4 がいたんで、そこの一瞬をうまくつけました。
So it felt really good overtaking the Lamborghini. That one chance he got it, and it was more of a mind game for his stint, and it was just you had to wait, and then there was this one moment, and he just took it and is very happy. この先、ね、15秒のね、ピトストップもものにせず、今トップ走行中ですけれども、またポディウムの真ん中行けますか？
そうですね、ただレースは最後まで何が起こるか分からないので、もうとにかくこのコルベットが、まずは無事に帰ってきてくれることを祈りつつ、今ねちょうどトップを走っているので、最後武井選手がなんとかしてくれると思うので、それを期待してます。
最後まで見守りましょう。
はい、頑張りましょう。お疲れ様です。
So you never know what happens in a race. That's what he said. He will keep his fingers crossed for Takei, and but he really wishes the car to come back in one piece, and then at last that they can smile again.
Well, will it be a double victory for Bingo Racing? Shinji Takai, Yukiya Sasahara won the opening race, and they're sitting pretty in the second. Their advantage is actually 13 seconds, and now you can certainly see that the pace is being picked up by Takai, but that was a classic move up the inside into turn one to depose this Lamborghini, to take the lead from its first driver, Yuki Nomoto. Drivers use a little phrase called sending it, and that very much was the case. At that point, Sasahara thought, I've had enough of sitting behind you, I'm just going to go for it. Certainly there had to be an adjustment to the line, because the Lamborghini found itself on the outside, but they're both pros and they didn't touch, but it eventually showed, because as soon as the Bingo Corvette was in the lead of the race, it was pulling clear. Now, what are we seeing? The Lamborghini is being caught hand over fist, to my eye, by Daisuke Yamawaki. Here we are, the car that started on pole, the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari, third, but closing all the time. On the last lap, he gained, wow, how about that? He gained 2.8 seconds on Mizutani's Lamborghini, so you feel the Lamborghini's going to have a short time in second place. It's falling away from the race leader and being caught by the Ferrari that's running in third. Oh, and in behind, having a change for Tadeo Uematsu is going up a position. He's leading GT3 AM, and he just picked off one of his rivals there, just did that very easily indeed. He went ahead of Kazunori Suenaga, who took over the Lexus from Morio Nitta, but just doesn't have the pace to match Uematsu, who is, may I say, just driving better and better. Last season he gained form, and this season he's really started with a bang in this, the opening lap of the opening round of the season. Bad news for Suenaga. We're talking about him, and he's got to come and visit the pits, unfortunately, because you guess it's a stop and go for 1 second. That means his pit stop was 1 second short of the mandatory minimum of 90. I talked about this before. You gain a second, but then you lose it because you have to give that second back and include going slowly into the pits and out. So that's a disaster for the car that started highest without a grid penalty. There's a certain irony there. That was its advantage, and it's been thrown away, I'm afraid. Good news, though. I always like to look for good news. The K-Tunes Racing, while their Lexus will have a setback, the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari is going very well indeed, pushing to take second place. Just been seeing the McLaren of Team Machina leading GT3 AM. And second in class is this Comet Racing Ferrari. Going very nicely indeed with teammate Yorikatsu Sujiko at the wheel at the moment. Hopefully all is fixed, because this was the car that was knocked out of fourth place at, ironically, turn 4 on the opening lap of the first race. Now here's traffic for you. This is the battle for second place. The Lamborghini of Akira Mizutani is under real pressure. They're both just from the Ferrari, the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari, number 98. That's going the outside way, the long way around the corner into turn 10. Can he turn in? Yes, he can. Can he complete the corner? Sigh of breath. Job done. Daisuke Yamawaki going very nicely indeed. So Lamborghini second to third, and Ferrari third to second, and pulling away immediately. What I'm going to need to see is what is the gap when the Ferrari comes up the hill, having just moved into second place. How far behind Shinji Takai's Corvette will it be? I think it's going to be quite a lot, but let's take a look. Cars coming across the finish line. First to second, the gap is 16.6 seconds. We've got 17 3/4 minutes. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Actually, particularly because last time around there was overtaking, so he was delayed. Oh, threading the eye of the needle, looking to the gap, but it was closing with the GT4 Toyota, in fact, also run by the same team, K-Tunes Racing, just wasn't quite clear where it wanted to be, and there was a little bit of a hesitation there from Daisuke Yamawaki, but once he got into second place, he'd already started to pull clear. I want to see his pace on this current lap to see if he's going to be able to do anything about the race-leading Corvette. Nita tied it. He's got the run-up Nissan just up ahead. He's going to put a lap on that. But look at the gap he's opened out already over the green Lamborghini of Akira Mizutani. The start-finish line, it was the best part of 2 seconds, and it's growing all the time. Traffic, traffic, traffic. This is the class leader in GT4, Haridama Manopo. Very, very tight in class, but he's threaded it through. The Indonesian driver doing a good job. He came up and tested here a month ago, and it certainly benefited him. Because while the Japanese racers know Sugo pretty well indeed, he did not. And working hard on the cockpit, constant adjustment of the wheels. This is turn 13, it just goes on and on and on, and then it starts to rise on the exit and climb. Drivers can just see sky as they come up the slope. Under a bridge, and finally they hit the level, the highest point of the circuit, the start-finish straight. And Manopo at the moment 39, 8th place overall, so he's ahead of one of the GT3 runners, and that is actually Kenji Hama. It seems D-Station Racing Aston Martin has not continued in the race. It's in the pits at the moment. Have to have a little eye out for driver penalties as well, because we know that there will be a second visit to the pits. In fact, it's just been served by Suinaga, Kazunori Suinaga, in that K-Tunes Racing Lexus, because that was the one that didn't quite stay in the pits long enough at its first pit stop, so that's dropped it some way down the order, which is all good news for the Comet Racing Ferrari. It's now second in GT3 AM. We're looking at it being driven very hard indeed by Yorikatsu Sujiko. Can he get close to Tadeo Uematsu? Well, I tell you what, probably not, because the gap between them is 40 plus seconds. So I think we know the identity of the GT3 AM winner. It'll be a double GT3 AM victory for Uematsu. Still a quarter of an hour left on the clock though. This is the view through the windscreen of that number 7 Comet Racing Ferrari, one of the 296 GT3s. Again, you just wait how long they have to wait until they can fully plant the throttle out of turn 8. The key is to get it planted as soon as possible, but you need your car balanced to do so. And then you carry your speed all the way, accelerating downhill through the kink at 9 to this corner, turn 10, and a lot of drivers just going a little bit too deep and undo all they gained at the top of the straight. Sportland Sugo, nearly 50 years since it opened, and it must have been a fabulous circuit at the time, among many Japanese fabulous circuits. It always seemed to have this combination of tree-lined stretches and lots of vertical climb, but I think the prize is definitely from lowest to highest is taken by Sugo, and this is the point where it's all gained back. The lowest point going into turn 13, of the highest points in the circuit, 1, 2, 3, just now another lap going on the board for Comet Racing, 42 seconds down on their class leader, and the class leader in GT3 AM in 4th place overall, pulling ever further clear. Tadei Uematsu and his team matching a McLaren. But this onboard footage just shows you how the drivers are busy all the way around the nearly 3.6 kilometre lap. Uphill, down dale, round trees, down straights. Fastest lap of the race is still in the possession of K-Tunes Racing, set on lap 7, so in the first stint of this 1 hour race by Shinichi Takagi, and at the moment Daisuke Yamawaki, who's running that, cannot improve on that. Just checking his pace relative to the Bingo Racing Corvette. We're riding with that number 9 Corvette down the back straight, much steeper than it looks, by the way. Television always flattens stuff. And last time around, Yamawaki in the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari gained 2 seconds on the race leader. Was the traffic in front of the 9 Bingo Racing Corvette? There isn't at the moment, so certainly Shinji Sakai can really press on. Right, average speed, well obviously the car that's leading the race will have the best average speed on the Japan Cup Race Vision stats, and so it does. Still riding on board, this is turn 13, long corner, and then the rising exit, steeply rising exit, and the 32nd lap is about to be completed. 12.5 minutes remain in this race. Is the gap going out from the race leader to the chasing Ferrari, or is it coming down? Got to wait about a dozen seconds to find out. But for the last half lap, at least the Bingo Racing race-leading Corvette had a clear run. 12 seconds, the gap came down by 1.7 seconds. It's coming down in handfuls, and I don't think there was any traffic affecting the Bingo Racing Corvette that leads the race. Certainly from what we saw on the onboard camera, there was none of that. There will be shortly. The Sunrise Boulevard Porsche Cayman in GT4, you can see it with the yellow, black and white livery, is on the left-hand side of the track from the driver's point of view as they run down the hill, but Shinji Takai flashes his lights all nonetheless to just say, I'm coming, let me through, do not delay me. In fact, he's not going to catch it until they're somewhere in turn 13, but knowing that, that's why he's wanting to flash his lights. One of the comments from K-Tunes Racing about their Ferrari, this is the car that took pole position in race 1 and for this race. They didn't get their tyre management right in the first race, but certainly they're looking as though they're doing so now, because great chunks are being taken out of the race leader. Daisuke Yamawaki, who led the first into the opening races, doing it all again. Super smooth for him. And the Lamborghini, haven't seen that for a short while, but it's dropped back from the Ferrari by 11 seconds now. It's running about a second off the pace of the race leader, therefore almost 2 seconds a lap off the pace of Daisuke Yamawaki. That's why it's fallen back to third place overall and is dropping away. Another lap on the board. Race lead to second place down to 10.6 seconds. This car now 13.3 seconds further in arrears. Now I'm just hearing news from the pits. We wonder why the D-Station Racing Aston Martin came into the pits and did not continue. Unfortunately, the driver due to take over, which is Aston Martin, Tatsuya Hoshino, was not feeling at all well, so best not to go and throw yourself around a circuit here. But D-Station Racing, such supporters of GT racing all around the world, from the World Endurance Championship down, will be back next time 2 weeks from now at Fuji. But let's hope that the driver Tatsuya Hoshino can feel a little bit better later. Now another driver who might be feeling a bit hot under the collar is Shinji Takai, leading the race. You might think leading by 10 seconds. Well, that's comfortable, that's fine. 10 minutes left on the clock, but with every lap his lead is being reduced by the chasing Ferrari. This is the view through the windscreen of 563, which is the ANR with Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini. This is the car that had to go in the lead of the race in the hands of Yuki Inamoto, but in the hands of Akira Mitsutani, it's dropping back a little bit, but still easily, well actually not so easily clear of Tadej Uematsu. Uematsu lost third place on the last lap to the Lamborghini in the first race, and he might be about to repay the compliment because he's getting closer and closer. That's third place across the line for Mitsutani. Tadej Uematsu just 2.4 seconds down. He's taking a second and a bit per lap out of the Lamborghini. Can he evoke some revenge? Let's find out. Second place, now under 10 seconds in arrears from the race leader. Little bit compromised by the Sunrise Boulevard Porsche, but look at the pace, how it's being picked up. The average lap time is the bar across the middle of the chart, but over half a second clear on one lap, nearly half a second clear the next, then 7/10 ahead of the average race pace as the Ferrari gives chase. So certainly Daisuke Yamawaki very clearly shown his progress on that chart, how he's going after the race leader and dropping everybody else in his wake. But will he have time left to do it? 8 minutes 20 seconds until the hour will be up. The gap's down to 9.8 seconds, and with every sector around the lap apart. However, from the middle sector on this lap, where he got compromised by that GT4 Porsche, and he lost, oh dearie me, trying to gain fractions of a second, and in that sector alone he lost 3/4 of a second. That was a big gift for the Bingo Racing race-leading Corvette. And look how Shinji Takai, here's that average lap time bar. The race chaser, the K-Tunes Ferrari, was above that bar, so beating the race average. And Shinji Takai, maybe the tyres are going away, maybe he's just nursing his lead to the finish, but he is below the average lap time for the GT3 Pro-Am cars at the front end of the field. Can he hang on? 7.5 minutes remain until the hour is complete, and the second of the two races of the opening round of the Japan Cup will be concluded. What he doesn't want is traffic up ahead. In fact, what he doesn't have for this lap at least, is the traffic. The next car he will catch will be the number 50 BMW from Wise Racing in the hands of Yuki Fujii. That's third in GT4, a class that's still being led by Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia. Aha! Here comes the car in fourth place, the car that leads GT3 AM today. Uematsu getting closer and closer. He's just under 2 seconds down on the Lamborghini of Akira Mizutani. Can he catch it? And then, if he catches it, can he pass it? The clock is not his friend. It's counting down. Closer and closer we get to the end of this 1 hour race. Tadej Uematsu leading GT3 AM, getting closer and closer all the time, but his margins of catching that Lamborghini are now starting to fall away, just half a second per lap. That may not be enough. No such problems though for the leader of the GT4 class. Pole for both the races. Problem right at the start of the opening race set them back, but in this one Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia going very, very well indeed in the hands of Haridamo Manopo, building on the work of his teammate Seita Nonaka. He did a very, very strong opening stint. Lovely gruff engine notes of the Supra, well crisp actually in so many ways, down to the final corner. Down, 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 at this point suddenly levelling up, going up the slope. Last time around his advantage was 14 seconds over another Toyota Supra, the one entered by Wakayama Toyota, run by Hojas Racing. The gap between them was 13 odd seconds. It's probably going to open out to over 14 now. Another good lap on the board from Manopo. Looks very menacing in that all black livery with the Gazoo Racing G and R in white and red respectively. Right, gap between first and second down to 9.3 seconds. But let's go down to the pits and have an interview with Amy, talking to Shinichi Takagi.
高木選手、じわじわと近づいてますけれども、追いつきますかね。
本当ね、スタートがなんかちょっと調子が出なくて、ちょっと落ち着いた時僕の時ね追いついていったんですけど、その辺もちょっと僕たちも勉強不足なところはあるんですけど、今山脇さんが徐々に上がってきてるんで、最終ラップぐらいに追いつくかなって感じですよね。
やっぱりレース1の鬱憤を晴らしたいですよね。
そう甘くないのがよく分かったんで次戦に向けていろいろなデータが取れたんでね、楽しみです。
じゃあ最後まで見守ります。
はい。
頑張ってください。
山脇さん頑張れ。
So, the Huracan just came in, so let's see what that is. But let me translate first. So he is hoping that Yamawaki he catches up to P1. However, it's been a whole learning process, and he also admitted that he wasn't really great at the start. But then in his stint, he kind of got into it and then got better time. So it's still a learning process, and you never know what happens in racing. So he's looking forward to a podium at least.
Thank you very much, and good to have Shinichi Takagi now as part of our pit lane crew there, spotting the Lamborghini coming in from third place. Remember, it was being caught very hand over fist by the McLaren of Tadej Uematsu. It looks like I couldn't tell if it came in to serve a penalty. I don't think so, because it's just the mechanics moving around the car, but something is not right. So third place became fourth, and suddenly nowhere at all for Akira Mitsutani and the ANR with Vincenzo Sospiri racing crew. Driver still on board. Car going absolutely nowhere as yet, but maybe it was a minute stop and go or something, because that's about the amount of time it was at a standstill. So that will lose valuable points in the Japan Cup, but a car that's leading the race now, 8.6 seconds clear, so the gap continues to drop as the Bingo Racing Corvette is halfway down the back straight. The next car in the line, there are two GT4 runners, and halfway down the straight now is the Chaser. It's not enough time left, surely, for K-Tunes Racing with Daisuke Yamawaki to get onto the tail of the Corvette all over again. The Lamborghini gets going, but it will have tumbled down to, I would think, smoking a little bit there. Let's hope it was a little bit of runoff, and maybe he came because he thought there was a problem with the engine. We'll keep an eye on that. Not much longer to do so, only 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And our race leader up the slope one more time, the Bingo Racing Corvette, Shinji Takai. He was 8.6 seconds clear last time one checked, just waiting for the chasing Ferrari that does continue to chase, come up over the crest and put 39 laps on the board. 9.1 seconds. So let's go down to A&R crew to find out what happened with the Lamborghini.
根本選手、まずはご自身の、ね、スタート素晴らしかったと思うんですけれども、とてもいい順位でいたんですが、何があったんでしょうか。今なんか無線だとギアボックストラブルで3速にちょっとスタックしちゃって、で本来はギアボックスボタンを押せばなんとかなるんですけど、水谷さんもねこの車まだまだ乗れてないのでちょっとコミュニケーションに時間かかっちゃって、一旦ねこう中に入れて落ち着いてボタンを、ね、確認してから今出てったんですけど、多分帰ってきますね。はい。いやまた次戦楽しみにしてます。はい、よろしくお願いします。お疲れ様でした。So it's a problem of the gearbox and the car is coming into the box now, so I need to clear out. But yeah, unfortunate for them, but looking forward to the next race.
So there's the answer to the question. The A&R with Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini running in third place, just about to be passed for that position, but gearbox problems is why it was losing ground to the chasing McLaren. No problems at all though for Shinji Takai. He just goes past the GT4 class leader. That's from Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia. Another lap to go on the board. The last 2 laps he's actually stretched the advantage. Lap after lap it was coming down as the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari was beginning to close and then properly closing, but it seems Takai has got enough in hand. We've got just under a minute left on the clock. And this is the final lap of the second race, the opening round of the Japan Cup for 2024. In previous seasons, the Japan Cup has been part of GT World Challenge Asia classes within the overall race. This year, for the first time, the races are standalone events, such as the Gross. We've got enough cars to do that, and almost too many if we stick them all with the GT World Challenge grid. So we have a standalone. The gap actually does continue to come down a little bit more for the chasing Ferrari, but I think second place is all it can hope for. As it just turns through turn 8, goes on the back straight for the last time at racing speed. He too has to pick his way past the GT4 class leader, but braking as he goes down the slope into turn 10 for the final time at racing speed is Bingo Racing. Victory in race 1 is surely going to be followed by victory in race 2, and it could be by 7, 8, 9 seconds. It doesn't matter. He's got a comfortable buffer in hand, and already you can see Ukiyo Sasahara is considering should he climb up on the pit wall to wave and acknowledge victory for his teammate, because there's just this final corner to go. Bingo Racing have had a fantastic run. They took a victory last year at Fuji, but this time around they've started their season opening the Japan Cup account with not 1 but 2 wins, and certainly Takai backs it off, waves the crew. There's Ukiyo Sasahara up on the pit wall, a double celebration for them. The Ferrari comes through in second place, 7.3, 7.4 seconds down in second place, so a good meeting for them. Both those crews managed to sort of claw back any disadvantage they had. But how's this for a battle in GT4? GT4 has been won by Monopo, but the battle for second place between the second of the Toyotas, that's car 38, with Ochai on board and Fuji in the BMW, came down to nothing. 0.13 of a second between them on the line. GT3 AM victory has gone in that class to Tadeo Uematsu. The checkered flag still waving. The driver, of course, the person waving the flag can't see what's coming over the crest of the hill. There is the car that's going to win GT4 AM, the only car that started that class, but it matters nonetheless. Victory taken by the SRO Motorsports Mercedes, with lights flashing, the final finishers coming across the line. There is the K-Tunes Racing GT4 Toyota Supra, car number 97, heading to 5th place, penultimate position in the GT4 category. But a clear win, 7.388 seconds for the Bingo Racing Corvette. A job very, very well done. There it is on its slowing down lap, with the chasing Ferrari almost on its tail now, but it became clear as Shinji Takai responded to the challenge behind. Wanted to back off a little bit to be safe, but sometimes if you back it off too much, the concentration goes, and he had enough in hand to take victory by 7 seconds. And no wonder he is very, very pleased indeed with that performance. Comet Racing took second place in GT3 AM, 4th overall. Car number 96 was 5th on the track. That was the Lexus, brought home by Kazunori Suenaga, and 6th place, completing the top half dozen, was car number 360, the run-up sports Nissan, finishing a lap down but in 6th place overall. So the cars that were 1st and 2nd, the Corvette followed by the Ferrari coming up. Indeed, oh look at that, beautiful. Tucked in behind is the GT4 class winner, and that was car number 39. Toyota Gazoo Racing Supra, with Haridamo Manopo winning that class. And as we saw just a few moments ago, it was a Toyota 1-2 in the GT4 class, because very, very tight at the finish, but a chase from the Wise Racing BMW with Yuki Fujii, but somehow, Takeshi Suehiro hung on and took second place. But as in the first race, Bingo Racing take victory. This time around, of course, the driver that started race 1 is the driver who finishes race 2. And that's Shinji Takai climbing out this time. Maybe he'll be given the bear hug, and maybe there's the lift. Returning the compliment was given to him. Ukyo Sasahara clearly delighted. What a couple of weekends he's had. Victory in Super GT last weekend at Suzuka, then a double win in this, the opening round of the 2024 Japan Cup. So Bingo Racing are the gold standard. It's up to the others to see what they can do to shoot them down in the next round. Rounds 2 of the 4-round championship. Great circuits too. Fuji follows this one, then Suzuka, and ending the season at Okayama in the west of Japan. In GT4, you can just see the race winner, Haridamo Manopo, the Indonesian racer, out there waiting to be greeted by his teammate Seita Nonaka, because they took victory in GT4, and their margin of victory 11 seconds in the end, so great delight down there. Lots of bowing, handshaking, and the man who puts the whole show together, Benjamin Franasavici, who's created the Japan Cup, also in to offer his applause and handshake. It's great to see such happy faces out there, and have a thought. Actually, 7th place at the end, still went to a car that didn't finish the race. It was brought back to the pits. That was the ANR Lamborghini that finished 3rd in the opening race. Looks like it was just going to end up with 4th today, but those gearbox problems caused it to report to the pits. But let's go down to our winning crew from Bingo Racing with Amy Izawa.
なんと今週末ダブルウィンでございます。おめでとうございます。最高に気持ちいいですか？
最高です。もうこれ以上ないですね。はい。
いやでも本当武井選手のね走り見てどうでしたか、笹原選手？
いやもう本当安定感あって、もちろん2番手のね98号車早かったんですけど、ただこっちがペース上げていってたらもう本当にペース上げてくれるぐらい余裕を持ってくださってたんで、なんか見ていて安心しました。
So he's very, very happy, hyped about this win, and also looking at how Takei was driving, it was just very, very soothing because he just could look at it and was not worried at all. So they're very happy. Takei 選手、後ろに7秒も置いてチェッカーでした。おめでとうございます。
なんか本当に笹原選手がねすごい熱いいいレースをしてたんで、自分も応えなきゃなと思ってたんですけど、なんか追いかける展開かなと思ったら出ていったらちょっとマージンがあるって言ってたんで。ミスなく走り切ってマージン保って優勝すればいいと思って、あとはピットの指示で早く行けって言ったら早く走ろうと思ってたし、もっとペースを落とせって言ったら落とそうかなと思ってたんですけど、うまくいきました、すべて。はい。
素晴らしいダブルウィンでした。おめでとうございました。So when he pitted out, he thought he needs to look into the front, but apparently he only had to look into the back because he had a margin. And then they had contact with the pit with Sasahara the whole time, and he just listened to what he told him to do. So just push or just, drive a little bit slower. And so that's how they landed here, and he's very, very happy about it.
Well, it was a race that worked beautifully for Bingo Racing, and it was interesting because I expected the Bingo Racing Corvette to come out just behind a car that hadn't had to have success penalty in the pits, but they were well in front due to some fantastic laps before the pit stop from Ukyo Sasahara, and the driver who reaped the benefit alongside him was Shinji Takai. And now we're all starting to assemble for the podium ceremony, and lots of happy faces down there. But let's go down to have an interview with our GT4 winners from Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia with Amy.
So, Manopo, what you left at race 1, you got it back at race 2. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you very much. Like I said before, we changed a little bit for setup, and yes, finally we get champion.
セットアップを変えてですね、挑んだ結果が、ここにあるとおっしゃってます。野中選手、勝てましたね。レース1でちょっとこぼしちゃったんですけれども、今のお気持ち教えてください。
はい、レース1で、レーシングアクシデントもあり、ペースも非常に苦しかったので、苦しいレースがあったからこそレース2のこの優勝はとても嬉しいです。
おめでとうございます。Party hard. So because they had race one and it just didn't feel right in their gut, he's very happy about this win this time because they didn't do it this morning, and so they're going to celebrate well.
2 races in one day gives you the chance of redemption, and certainly they grabbed it. Let's take a look at the results of the second race of the Japan Cup here at Sportsland Sugo, and it made it 2 wins for Ukyo Sasahara and Shinji Takai for Bingo Racing with their Corvette, this time by 7 seconds from K-Tune Racing's Ferrari, with a great second stint from Daisuke Yamawaki not quite being enough. Tadei Uematsu won GT3 AM in 3rd place overall to complete a fantastic weekend for him and his McLaren from Team Machina. 4th place was Comet Racing, coming 2nd in the GT3 AM class, a little bit further down. Then the first of the lap cars was Kazui Surinaga and Morio Nitta, the K-Tunes Racing Nissan, ahead of the run-up sports Nissan that took 3rd place in the GT3 AM class. And then stationary in the pits with a gearbox problem, but still ranked 7th overall, was the Lamborghini of Yuki Nemoto and Akira Mizutani. And the top runner, we just heard from them in GT4, Haridama Minopo and Seita Nonaka, winning their class in 8th place overall. And now it's time for the podium ceremonies for the Japan Cup. We'll have 4 ceremonies, of course, starting with GT3 overall. And wait for it, awaiting the entrance of the winners. It says winner on the banner. They're coming through the wall in the background. So welcome Bingo Racing, Bush. Through the wall they come. That's Shinji Takai, Ukyo Sasahara. They know the format here. Very dramatic entrance to the podium. 2 wins from 2 races here at Sportsland Sugo on the Sunday. 2nd place, K-Tunes Racing Ferrari duo, Daisuke Yamawaki, who came out first, and Shinji Takagi, who's been there, seen it, done it, a multiple champion in Japan. Smiles all round. And in 3rd place, all on his own, he doesn't have any teammates. That's Tadeo Uematsu, who also took victory in the GT3 AM class with his McLaren. And out to present the trophies on the podium is Kazushige Sasaki, who's the president of the circuit here at Sportsland Sugo. So 3rd place trophies presented first, and now to K-Tunes Racing's Ferrari duo. And then the winners' trophies presented to Bingo Racing, to Ukyo Sasahara, and there it is, the 2nd of those trophies, so Shinji Takai. So victory in race 1, followed by victory in race 2. So as the photographers are taking the official photos on the podium, the drivers know they've got one further duty to do, holding up the model cars, the transformer cars that are the sign of the Bingo Sports team, and waiting, being challenged by the traditional dancers there, but at the drop of a hat, they'll be going for their champagne bottles. The weekend is over for them with 2 wins. It's been a fantastic start to their Japan Cup campaign. For everyone else, they've got to see now what they can do about overpowering the Bingo crew with a fantastic multicoloured Corvette. And as Amy Izawa gives the clue, chance to look at the cars sitting down below, including the GT4 winner just behind the Japan Cup victory arch. Looks like it's going to be a very discreet spraying of champagne on the podium, but they can go for it, and it looks like Tadeo Uematsu 3rd in the race, but first on the champagne. And for Bingo Racing, those suits can be dry cleaned between this race and the 2nd round in 2 weeks' time at Fuji. So the top 3 finishers here, including the driver who won the GT3 AM class. He's the one closest to the camera, that's Tadeo Uematsu. But for Ukyo Sasahara and Shinji Takai, it's huge smiles. 2 wins here at Sugo gives them a good championship lead. It's been a very busy day, qualifying yesterday, practice the day before, and the 2 races today, but they've done the job very, very well indeed. 2 wins for Bingo Racing with their Corvette. And certainly looking as though it's going to be a good, strong season. It's a question of how the others can get in on the act. Certainly K-Tunes Racing looked increasingly competitive with their Ferrari. In the end, just 7 seconds down, but a really, really good job from them. For some of the other crews, they had slight mishaps, but we will see others getting up close to them as the Japan Cup goes through its next 3 rounds. But let's look back to how this race began and how it ran with the highlights. Clean start from pole position. It seems the Ferrari was getting everything done in the hands of Shinichi Takagi, but taking no for an answer wasn't an option for Yuki Inamoto. Round the outside he went. He wasn't quite in the lead, but he kept his foot in. And on the exit of turn 2, he swept through. And as the Ferrari tried to cover across, it had the Bingo Racing Corvette going up the inside, taking a look and venturing its way past into second. The Ferrari would then just gradually fall off the tail, but the lead battle was enthralling. Look how close it got. Chase for Ukiyo Sasahara, and eventually thought, I've had enough. I've tried to slipstream, it hasn't worked. He just dived up the inside into the first corner. Yuki Inamoto realised he was beaten and kept himself out of the way. And then bit by bit, the Corvette would pull clear. The first of the front runners to blink was Shinichi Takagi coming in. The next one in was the Lamborghini, Yuki Inamoto getting out. And as late as he possibly could make his stop, Ukiyo Sasahara came in the nick of time, handed over the Corvette to Shinji Takai. And really the big question was who was going to finish in second place, but a brilliant move resulted in a change of that position with Daisuke Yamawaki getting the Ferrari up into second place. And maybe, just maybe at this point in the race, the Lamborghini was beginning to suffer from gearbox problems that would eventually cause it to park in the pits. Comet Racing were going very well in the GT3 AM class, but that was being led throughout the race by Tadao Uematsu. And then coming into the pits for an unscheduled stop, the Lamborghini would go out once more but would eventually park up, but no such problems for Bingo Racing. Victory in race 1 followed by victory in race 2 with Shinji Takai being the driver this time to complete the running. Lights are flashing, checkered flag wave, Yuki Sasahara, his teammate, up on the pit wall. Second place went to the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari, but you can see how much victory meant to Shinji Takai as he brought his car home to a double victory. Now let's go to the second of the podiums. This is GT4 up on the top step. Sorry, I beg your pardon, GT3 and podium. I jumped the gun there, and it's Tadao Uematsu, third overall, but first in the class. Second in class, the Comet Racing duo of Yusuke Yamasaki and Yorikatsu Sujiko, and third in class, it's number 360. That's the Run-Up Sports Nissan crew of Masaki Nishikawa and Atsushi Tanaka. But GT3 AM winner, never in doubt really, Tadao Uematsu for Team Machina, the one McLaren in the race, and he's bagged 2 wins in his class. So they have the trophies, they have the bubbly. Already Tadao Uematsu probably smells of champagne after he was on the overall podium in GT3, but Comet Racing unleashed the bubbly. The music rings out, the traditional champagne music from around global racing. And we'll see all these drivers back again in 2 weeks' time in Fuji. But you can see how much Tadao enjoyed his day, his weekend, his 3 days, if you will, here at Sportstand Sugo. A fantastic circuit and a really good place to start the Japan Cup season going. And just to reiterate, for the first time, the Japan Cup races run separate from GT World Challenge Asia. It's going to make for a very busy visit to Fuji, but certainly the marker has been laid down by some of these winners in the opening rounds of the season here at Sugo. Let's take a look at the GT3 points. I think we can guess who's top. Yes, it's Bingo Racing. 2 batches of 25 points for the 2 wins there. 14 points clear of the K-Tunes Racing Ferrari crew. So for Shinji Takai and Ukiyo Sasahara, that's the dream start to the championship. And then in behind, the 2 crews level on 27 points, the ANR Lamborghini crew and the K-Tunes Racing Lexus crew, showing the diversity of K-Tunes Racing, running a Ferrari and a Lexus in the GT3 class. Wonderful mountainous backdrop here to the circuit. Slightly cloudy today. In GT3 AM, it's all Tadao Uematsu. Doesn't have a teammate, does it all on his own, is McLaren. He's 14 points clear of the Comet Racing Ferrari crew that took second place in GT3 AM twice. And Run-Up Sports started to make progress. They're up with their Nissan into third position in the championship from Masaki Nishikawa and Atsushi Tanaka. Now it's time for the GT4 podiums. And the number 50 BMW crew, third place for them. That's Yuki Fujii and Masaki Kano. Second place going to car 38. That's the Wakayama Toyota for Takeshi Suehiro and Yoshiyuki Ochai. And onto the top step after a mishap in the first race, not of their own making. Haridama Manopo and Seita Nonaka, victors in GT4 for Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia. They had some great scraps up and down the order. It was Toyota first in GT4, Toyota second, BMW in third position. So that's it from us here in the opening round of the Japan Cup. Do make sure you visit us 2 weeks' time at Fuji. It's been fantastic at Sugo. So trophies held high as presented to them by the president of Sportsland Sugo, the circuit that's put on such a good show. That's Kazushige Sasaki. Everyone else watching on, and the GT4 crew is showing just as much delight in their success as their GT3 big brothers, so to speak. Huge smile on the face of the only Indonesian driver in the race, the only non-Japanese driver. He was a winner along with Seita Nanaka, and that's Haridama Manopo already getting a faceful up on the podium, but they'll be pleased. They had problems with the setup of their car in race 1. They got it sorted for race 2 and took victory in class by 11 seconds, so they're definitely getting that Toyota Supra pointed the right way. But look out for Wakayama Toyota. They are coming on very strong, second in the race today, but certainly they too were making progress. And still good to see the pleasure of the crew that finished third, almost finished second. That's the BMW crew from Wise Racing, Yuki Fuji and Masaki Kano, who's been there, seen it, done it, won it. And you know, today he'll accept third place, but had a really good scrap at the end. Still the teams watch on. They've worked hard this weekend. They'll all have a better picture of where they stand overall relative to their rivals in the championship, and they've done a very, very tidy job today. So our GT4 overall drivers go out. Let's take a look at how the points stack up in the GT4 class. This is for the silver round, the overall runners in GT4, and it's Wise Racing. Victory in almost second place, victory in third for Wise Racing, their BMW, Yuki Fuji and Masaki Kano. They're top, but just 3 points and 4 points behind respectively. Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia, winners in the second race today, they're second, and Wakayama Toyota in third. Just 1 point behind Toyota Gazoo Racing Indonesia. And then the best of the rest is Sunrise Boulevard. They look very good in stages in their Porsche, so this should be a fantastic championship in the Japan Cup, a subclass. But waiting for the final podium, it will be, I'm not Nostradamus, it's Absa Motorsport. They were the only car in the class, Absa Motorsport, with their Mercedes, Kiwamu Katayama and Takashi Toyoda, joined by some traditional dancers on second and third position. We can see who came second and third, but smiles all round on the top step. They've the teams traditionally run a McLaren in GT3. Now they're running a GT4 Mercedes, and I'm sure the drivers enjoyed their experience around the circuit here and will have learnt a whole lot to take to the following rounds of the championship. Japan Cup well and truly launched here at Sugo. We'll move on to Fuji, then Suzuka, all very close together, then the summer gap, and at the end of the August we will complete the Japan Cup series at Okayama in the west of Japan. And so victory in race 1 and victory in race 2, that means 2 lots of 25 points, so we know as the only entrants in the class, Absa Motorsport, this duo of drivers, Kiwamu Katayama and Takashi Toyoda, will have 50 points in the bag. So, the opening round of Japan Cup for 2024 for the first time run as a separate championship. And it started very well with some fantastic scraps around the Sportsland Sugo circuit that was a brilliant backdrop and racing surface for the drivers. It is all down. The drivers understand where they are. The teams understand how they rank. They're going to do it all over again. Do make sure you join us next time out in a fortnight's time at Fuji. Goodbye.